What about sport foods? There's a lot of products out there. It's a little confusing, so I'm going to break it down into the categories that we often see. So you see a lot of beverages. We've talked about these a little bit. Water or a flavored water would be our core hydration choice that we'd be drinking during the day, before, during, and after runs. There are lower calorie sport beverages that still have electrolytes like this G2. That can work out as a beverage before a run if you're wanting to go a little lighter in carb. There are pre-run drinks that are higher in carbohydrate, not quite the consistency of a gel like this Gatorade Prime. That can be had within the hour before a run. That could be consumed the hour before a run. Good old Powerade Gatorade type beverages that often will be a drink sponsor, and you'll see those at the run. It's important to find out what the drink sponsor is, who it is, so that you trial out that sport beverage and get your body accustomed to that before the event. There are sport beverage type higher protein recovery beverages that can be used immediately after runs, good old chocolate milk that we've talked about, and then there are higher protein, kind of beefed up chocolate milk protein drinks that are also used in the recovery, particularly for underweight runners or someone that's not quite getting enough protein. So there's a variety of beverages that we're looking at that we may use around running events. I think the most important is water and your traditional sport beverage. I think most runners should be familiar with those two items. Sport bars. We have three categories of sport bars. We have high carb sport bars like the Power Bar, the Clif Bar. These are like a bagel in a bar. These are really ideal for pre-run or post-run, and even small bitefuls of these during long runs if you're not a gel or gummy consumer would be fine. So these are the traditional sport foods that have been around for a while. Most runners need to be familiar with these, particularly for events that are away from home and they need a good digestible bland carbohydrate source before a run. There are several other types of bars though to be aware of. I think the most confusing type of bar are the high protein bars like this MET-Rx Big 100 that has over 30 grams of protein, or the Supreme Protein Bar that's 30 grams of protein, or like a Clif Builder bar. These are what we would call higher protein bars. They're like a piece of meat in a bar. They would only be used in the recovery, and most runners will not need a bar this dense unless again they're not able to get a meal containing meat after the run. If you're watching your weight, these are really more caloric than most runners would want to use. They pack in the calories both from protein and fat, so we want to be cautious on how often we use those types of products. And then a lot of people are familiar with what I'd call the moderate protein carb bars like Snickers Marathon, Balance, Zone, Luna. These types of bars are like a peanut butter sandwich in a bar or peanut butter crackers in a bar. These are great to have as a mid-afternoon snack if you're running after work, 2 hours before a run, even an hour and a half before a run. These are fine in the recovery within an hour after a run, up to 2 hours. This can serve to be a quick carbohydrate protein mix snack that are appropriate to use in their moderate and calorie range. I wouldn't do one of these right before a run within the half an hour before because the protein may be a little dense in your system and feel too heavy. Another popular grouping of sport foods are sport gels and chews like the Clif Shot Blocks, the Power Bar Energy Gels, the new Gatorade Energy Chews. These can be used both before and during runs, and they are quick carbohydrate, maltodextrin, electrolyte sources of energy that are easy to digest, a little less dense than an energy bar. So if somebody feels like a bready product is too dense, these would be appropriate to use up until run time, and also an hour into a run when you're starting to crave more than just a sport beverage. These are great to start incorporating at that point. They do contain sugar though, so again, if you're watching your weight, this is something a lot of runners don't even have to engage in. They can just be doing their water and sport beverage and probably be just fine. And then there are gels that are also similar, Power Gel, Clif Shot Gel, Goos, and these are used in a very similar fashion to the chewable blocks or shots, but they're in more of a kind of syrupy or frosting consistency, and again may not be needed but could be used in longer runs and definitely in marathon events in the latter half, second half of those types of events when you need more than just a sport beverage. Last thing to be aware of, a lot of runners like to use salt packets. Something I prefer to use is a Gatorlytes electrolyte packet, and this is something you can add into a bottle of water or add into a sport beverage, and it's similar to adding a small salt packet, but it's designed to be more like the composition of your sweat versus just salt. We're losing a mixture of different minerals, not just salt. Salt is the primary thing we're losing, but this would be a little bit safer to use, and it's important when you're talking about adding straight salt during an event that you put it into your water that you also drink water if you're licking salt out of a salt packet, or better yet, using something that's designed to be more like your salt composition. So the Gatorlyte Pro Series, and you can order these on the internet. So this is a wide example of some of the different sport foods you might come across. Again, if I was to prioritize for a new runner, water beverages, regular sport beverages, high carbohydrate bars. Those three I think all runners need to be familiar with and could benefit from using in hydration and general fueling. Most of the rest of this you may not need, but it would be important to understand how to use it appropriately either in the pre, during, or post phases of your running. We do have some handouts that accompany this that show you how to use different sport foods appropriately.